working on this issue.
I want to thank the gentleman from Rhode Island, a former member of the Intelligence Committee and an activist in this area. You know, Madam President, colleagues, I'm happy to be on the floor with a bipartisan group of people who are really worried about our country, and we're worried about its survivability in the event of a cyber attack. Now, cyber attacks are not the work of science fiction, though they were once written about. That was once science fiction, is now a hard reality that could cripple our country and bring our country to the ground. You know, we've got to come up with a legislative framework to be able to protect .com and also be able to protect critical infrastructure. I'm talking about something that could create catastrophic economic damage, severe degradation. Why am I obsessed about it? Well, let's take the grid. There are those who say America runs on oil. Barb Mikulski says it runs on electricity. You cannot have a community without electricity. Look at what happened to us in this North Capital region when 2 weeks ago we had this freaky storm. We nearly came to our knees. Metro couldn't function. Stoplights were out. Communication went down. People didn't have access, to many communication. Their homes were without electricity. Food went bad. Tempers rose. We could not function as a community. Now, the good news is, no matter how late the utilities were in coming in to respond, they could turn the lights back on. They could turn the electricity back on. But I will tell you, in a cyber attack, that predator, that international predator, will fix it so that we won't be able to turn it back on, or not turn it on for days, for hours, days, or days. Do you know what that means? They want to humiliate us. They want to intimidate us, and they want to terrorize us. We have it within our hands to pass legislation that would bring the appropriate sources together for our privately owned critical infrastructure to be able to make the significant effort for which I believe we need to incentivize them to be able to protect us. I don't want to wake up one day and find out America's been hit because of gridlock here. And I will tell you, if we are hit, we will overreact, we will overspend, we will overregulate, and we will go over the top. So, Madam President, I want to listen to my other colleagues, but I'm telling you, we got to get off of our pet peeves here and move America to a safer zone. I want to thank Senator Whitehouse for what he said, and the fact that we really had a great study group, both sides of the aisle, eager for information, eager to come up with the best policies. And, much is being said about the private sector. I talk to the private sector a lot because of our work on the committees, and the private sector is looking for leadership. They're looking for a framework. Now, they worry that overregulation could be both costly and strangulating. Would we be so prescriptive that we mandate, that we, first of all, that we mandate, and that we essentially mandate data technology? Because this is a fast-moving, evolving field. But they're looking for us to give a legislative framework where they could work with our government on what they want to bring to the table and feel free, because there are certain proprietary concerns, to do it. I talk to people who really have responsibility for delivering power in Maryland, and they are working, and the Edison Institute, which represents the essentially the electric companies and the grid, they really would like us to have a framework, and they want to be at the table. They want to know who's in charge. Who do you call? What do you do in the event of an attack? But when you say to them, how can we prevent the attack? They say, well, that's where we need government to tell us where you think we're heading, to bring the great federal labs to bear with their ideas, and how do you do this in a way that really encourages not whatever government's going to do, but voluntary efforts. But voluntary efforts with some teeth, some standards to be met, standards that are not prescriptive, that could be dated, but again, the ever-evolving of the state of science and this. So I think we have the elements. Where the problem is not do we know what to do, but the problem is, are we going to do it, and can we put aside where we make the perfect the enemy of the good? Could we just come? Colin Powell had a great phrase called, America always needs to seek the sensible center. That's what I'm talking about here. I want to protect civil liberties. I certainly do want to protect civil liberties. But you know, the first civil liberty is that you can turn your lights on, and when you go to bed, you know your refrigerator's going to be working, the stoplights are going to be working when you wake up the next day, or if your child is at school or at camp, you're going to be able to get to that child, and that 911 is going to be working if you call 911. That's civil liberty. It means that you can function in a free and democratic society, but that you are not terrified, that you are literally in the dark. You are literally in the cold. There, you have no power politically, you have no power with electricity, and it's all because we failed to act. I think we can do this. And I really think Senators Lieberman and Collins have given us a great, not only starting point, I think to use our future, the language of our future Super Bowl champions, the Ravens, which will happen next year, we're beyond the 50-yard line. We could do this. So I would just hope that just in the spirit we come here today, we need a sense of urgency, we need a bipartisan effort, and we need the will to serve America and put that interest first.